Hey, good afternoon. I'm John Bledsoe, and I will be presenting Chapter 7, which is Managing Stress and the Work-Life Balance. And I'm going to go ahead and hop into it. We're going to begin by defining what is stress. And stress is a person's adaptive response to a stimulus that places excessive psychological or physical demand on that person. So what we're going to do, we're going to take that definition and now we're going to pare it down and we're going to think about that in the context of writing a research paper. So you've got a research paper and then it's got a deadline. There are, in our text, there's 4 different components of stress. Those 4 components are adaptation, they're the role of the stimulus, they're the psychological and physical demands, and then also it states that those demands must be excessive in order for stress to result. So let's think about that in the context of a research paper. Are we going to let the stress of having to write that paper, are we going to let that control us, or are we going to control it? Are we going to get out in front and kind of do some of our research, kind of chip away at it a little bit at the time so that we don't have to cram on that Saturday night when we know that Sunday it's due? That stressor kind of, it'll help to alleviate some of the stress if we work at it all along. So now we're going to talk about Dr. Hans Selye. Dr. Hans Selye was one of the pioneers of stress research, and he mentioned specifically eustress and distress. Eustress are those positive aspects of stress, the pressures and demands which lead to positive stress. That can be something like a marriage. Whenever you're leading up to your marriage, you may be thinking, what am I doing? What have I gotten myself into? But then you notice that it's one of the best things that I've ever done. You've got yourself a new job. You've got a speech that you've got to give. Once those pressure and those demands works together and you've got it clicking on all cylinders, that's eustress. That's positive energy that's put together. Distress is when excessive pressure and unreasonable demands comes together and it becomes a negative impact. It creates negative emotional states within you. It can ultimately lead to poor health in an individual. So Dr. Selye discussed eustress, the positive stressors in life, and distress, those more frequently talked about whenever we think of stress. Distress is what we normally think of. So from here, we're going to look at some organizational and some personal stressors in life. Organizationally speaking, our text talks about 4 different demands that we have. Those are task demands, they are physical demands, it's role demands, and interpersonal demands. All right, so let's think about our task demands. Let's think about a surgeon. A surgeon has someone's life in their hands. They have a very meticulous job where it's extremely important that they be accurate because they have a human in their hands that they're working on. So there's a lot of task stress with a surgeon to do the job right. When I think about physical demands, I think about someone who's like a DOT worker. Those guys with the Department of Transportation. It's hot. It's dangerous. There's cars whizzing by you, going fast all the time. Role demands. What are the expectations of you at work? And then what do you expect of the others? And then the interpersonal demands. The easiest way I can think of this is anytime you're dealing with people, whether it's at work or personally, you're going to do things a way that they probably wouldn't. And they're probably going to do things a way that you probably wouldn't. So there's inherent conflict there on an interpersonal basis. Personally, we can think about stressors that kind of bleed into the organization because most people don't check themselves completely at the door. You bring a little bit of your life into your company. So there's personal stress, whether there's a change in your marital status, whether you've got children that are in the mix, whether you're caring for a loved one or you've recently lost a loved one. Those things are going to be things that weigh on you both in your personal life, and it's going to bleed over into your organizational life. So organizations can do themselves a big favor by being in touch with their employees, to know them on a personal level and recognize kind of when they need that helping hand or they need that assurance that they're there for them. How does stress impact the organization? And for this, we're going to go back to Dr. Saleh, and we're going to think about the eustress, that positive aspect of stress. Organizations work best when their employees know what to expect. Their roles are clearly defined. The chains of command are clearly in place. And then organizationally, you know what the goals of the company are. You know the strategies in place to accomplish those goals. There's an inherent positive energy that occurs whenever all those things kind of work into place, when there's a clear communication channel and we're all kind of firing on all cylinders. Distress, again, those excessive pressures, the unreasonable demands, those can lead to negative attitudes. It can lead to dips in productivity. Your sales may be down. You may be flustered with some of the things that are going on at work. You may begin to withdraw from your work. You may notice that someone's just kind of walking around and doing a lot of useless chit chat throughout the day. They may not be that much in love or even like their work anymore. They just withdraw from it. Absenteeism is another thing that happens whenever those people are stressed. Absenteeism is kind of whenever you check out that hour or two early, or you begin to take a few more sick days or a few more annual leave days. You just you're not present at work. And then also burnout. Burnout is just whenever you've just had it. You can't take any more. You're there at the end of your rope and you're just done and you withdraw overall. So what are some ways that our stressors can be worked through both on an individual basis and organizationally? Individually, we can look at exercise. You can get in, your 20 to 40 minutes every day, just kind of blowing off some steam. You can do some relaxation or some breathing techniques. The inhale, exhale, 5 deep breaths. You can set up something. This is something that I do, but it's a daily task list. The last thing I do before I leave work is I set up the 3 things that must be accomplished the next day at work. So daily task lists kind of help us get our minds right for first thing in the morning to knock out things organizationally. You can also do that on a personal basis. Organizations can also do themselves a favor by setting up employee wellness programs. That'll kind of help to push folks to exercise. Volunteer programs, rewarding people for being involved in their communities and in different projects. We can adjust schedules for people who have recently had a child. We can work around. We know that there's work to be done, but they've also got a new life on their hands. So working around those. And then again, clear communication channels. It's an incredibly important thing. And then I think about Jesus as he was teaching his disciples. This was just before his arrest and just before his crucifixion. And he says in John 14:27, "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give to you. Not as the world gives do I give it to you. Let not your hearts be troubled, neither let them be afraid." This is a man who knows that he's about to die for the sins of the world, a sin that he never committed. He has every right to be just as completely stressed out as he can be, yet he's teaching those disciples who don't know the pain that he's about to endure. He's letting them know that they should not be afraid. He leaves his peace with us. He has that peace to know that he is God's only Son. And what an amazing thing for us to take with us and our stressors in our lives, to know that Jesus is right there with us and that his peace has been left with us. So my discussion question I'm going to leave with you guys is discuss some of the tactics that you employ to negotiate stress in your life, personally and professionally, and then discuss some of the ways that your organizations contribute to or alleviate your stress. Look forward to seeing you guys in the discussion board. Take care.